Hello again, ghoul fiends. Welcome to the Horror Ghouls podcast, where we review the most loved, the most hated, and often the most obscure horror films. I'm T,
I'm Megan.
and I'm excited to announce that this episode kicks off our summer slasher series,
Wow.
a celebration of blood, heat, and campgrounds where every movie takes place under the hot summer sun. Reminds me of not wearing deodorant some days and smelling like a trash can.
I love
Oh,
that that's what that
Oscar.
reminds you of. Wow.
Yes.
Well, you're really painting a picture, a
Yes,
smell
beautiful picture.
picture.
Smell-o-vision, if you will. Oh man. Remember scratch and sniffs? Like, ugh.
Yeah, but definitely wasn't thinking of like trash can armpit smell with a
Yeah, no.
I was thinking of like the grape. I don't know why I always got the grape sticker. Is that mean? They
No,
never let me
no.
pick like another flavor.
That's funny.
Flavor?
Well, scent, yeah.
I was eating them. That's maybe why. They were like, just give her the last.
I used to get banana a lot, and I hate banana now. I'm like, ugh,
It's because of the stickers. Look what you've done
probably.
to us, public school systems and
Right?
Catholic school systems, I guess,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Now we're all messed up about grape and banana, so
Right.
good
Ugh.
going. Yeah.
Well, this week we are rolling into camp for one of the most bizarre and unforgettable cult slashers of the 1980s. Sleepaway Camp, released in the oh so glorious year of 1983. Written and directed by Robert Hiltzik, this film has carved out a reputation for its brutal kills, deeply uncomfortable tone, and one of horror's most jaw-dropping twist endings. Hiltzik wasn't a seasoned filmmaker. In fact, this movie was his first and only movie for over 20 years, so two
Wow.
decades. But despite the low budget and amateur cast, Sleepaway Camp became that movie. The one horror fans whisper about at sleepovers, asking, "Have you seen the ending?" So, grab your sleeping bag, get your bug spray, and your shortest pair of short shorts, because we're heading deep into the woods tonight.
Gross.
I
I don't like outside. I don't.
don't either. I hate outside. I hate bugs, obviously. I hate bugs. So
You do hate bugs.
I do. Oh my God. If I could be outside in the world with no bugs, I would love it. I'd be like, this is great.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, it's unfortunate also fall is like the favorite. Summer is definitely crazy for crazy with bugs, but fall too. Love being outside. Still a lot of bugs.
I don't get a lot of bugs in fall, funny
Really?
enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they're dying, so I'm happy with that. Like a lot of times if they like happen to like come in, they're like dying and like gasping for air and asking for a drink of water. And I'm like, haha, little bastard, and I'm spraying them to death and then asphyxiating myself at the same time.
You're-
So
I like that I
yeah,
could picture you going out like I could go outside now and like kicking up your heels like a Maria von Trapp
pretty much.
sidekick
Pretty
moment.
much.
Yeah, I love that for
Yeah,
you.
because
Okay.
I definitely stay inside most of the summer. One, because I don't like the sun, and two, the bugs are out there, especially like the bees and the obese flies. So,
The obese
the
ones.
obese
That's right. That's
flies.
right. Okay.
So, I'm going to get into the main players of this movie. We have Angela Baker. She is a shy, quiet girl reeling from some childhood trauma, excuse me. She is sent to Camp Arawak. I believe that's how you say it, or Arawak. I don't know, but
Jack
Camp
Kerouac. I don't know. I
Camp
don't know.
A, okay,
Camp A.
for the summer with her cousin, and she's often bullied, but there's something very unsettling about her silence because she's definitely silent a lot. Then we have Ricky, who is Angela's very protective and hot-headed cousin. He's very loyal and quick to stand up for her, sometimes to a fault. We then have Judy, the camp's queen bee and slut. She used to be a thing with Ricky in the previous summer, and now she is about teasing, bullying, and flipping her hair and showing off her new boobs because they just grew over the over the year. So,
Congratulations, girl.
right.
No.
We then have Paul, who is Ricky's friend, who shows some interest in Angela, and he's one of the few people who treats her nicely at first. We then have Meg. who is a counselor with a serious attitude problem. She's very mean, she's aggressive, and she has some predatory behavior going on. And she definitely also bullies Angela quite a bit. We then have Ronnie, who was one of the only decent adults at this camp. He's muscular, he's shirtless most of the time, he wears coochie cutters and panties, and he cares about the kids' well being quite a bit.
Style icon.
Of course, yes.
Hmm.
He looks like he could be an American Gladiator. That was one of the notes I thought about.
Oh, I miss
Yeah.
that show so much.
Yeah, so he definitely
Yeah.
gives big American Gladiator vibes. I wouldn't be surprised if he had been on there at some point. We then have Mel, who is the owner of the camp, who's more interested in keeping the camp's reputation in good standing, covering up any accidents that take place. And just to add just one extra person who isn't really a big person in this movie, but I still want to add them, we're going to talk about Aunt Martha. Aunt Martha is Angela's very eccentric and unnerving aunt, and also Ricky's mother, who sends her to the camp. And her strange behavior kind of sets the tone for the weirdness of this movie. Just wanted to add her in. There are a few other people that I'm not going to mention because they're not the main players, but we might mention a few other names a little later. Don't worry, they're not important. And to be quite honest, they're all going to die. So
So is anyone really important? Is anyone? I don't
no,
know.
no.
We're gonna find out.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So we have our spoiler-free tea for you. So Sleepaway Camp is a low-budget slasher that came out during the height of early 80s horror. Please trust that this stands out from the crowd in ways you won't see coming. Set at Camp Arawak, the story follows Angela, a painfully shy teen who instantly becomes the target of cruelty from bullying campers to inappropriate adults. This film builds tension through bizarre and cruel moments and just instances that feel off. And while you'll recognize some of the classic slasher tropes, horny
Mm,
teens, sudden deaths, and suspicious characters, this movie dances to the beat of its own warped little drum. The tone is very awkward, grimy, weirdly campy, and that's pun very much intended. Uh,
sure.
there's a blend of teen hijinks, truly uncomfortable moments, and then the kills. They're very slow, they're kind of creepy and weirdly inventive. The pacing takes its time, but the buildup is very intentional, all leading to one of the most iconic and disturbing twist endings in horror history. It's one of those movies you might not love, but you surely won't forget it.
Hmm.
Okay, so that is our spoiler-free tea. So at this point, we're gonna jump right in to the full movie breakdown. And forgive me if I seem off. I'm tired, per usual. So we're gonna get through this though.
We're
Be
gonna
be
get through it.
gentle, be kind, rewind. There we go. So this film does open with a scene. There's a family. There's a man with two kids. They're on a little boat, and there's two teens riding in a speedboat. A girl and a boy, and a girl is riding behind on like jet skis or something like that. They're all in this lake, and they're all at Camp Arawak, basically. Unfortunately, something happens where the boat where the teens are driving, they drive into the boat with the father and his two kids. And we see that the father has been killed, one of the kids has been killed, and there's only one that is surviving. So a few years later, we cut to Aunt Martha's house, and she's very eccentric. She talks very oddly, and she's like, "Oh, I forgot I have something. I put it on my finger." Like, she's really weird. She's really, really weird.
She's a special lady.
Yeah, I can't even really describe her. And she dresses like a French mime. It's just interesting.
That's funny.
And so it's at this point that we find out that the girl survived, Angela, while her brother Peter did not. So Angela has now,
R.I.P.
right. So Angela has moved in with Ricky and his mother, who's Aunt Martha. And she's sending Ricky and Angela off to Camp Arawak, which is odd to me because, like, if you know that her dad and brother died there like a few years ago,
Yeah.
why would you
And
send her back
she,
there?
not only did they die there, but she witnessed a highly traumatic event. So it's like, you know what? I'm gonna have you do this summer Return to the city, like going back to Amity Island in Jaws. Like
Right,
we know that you watched your whole family get torn to shreds by a giant shark, but we're still gonna send you back. So just
right,
maybe not a great choice, you know?
right. Which we will be reviewing at some point.
That was
Hey,
called foreshadowing.
right? So Aunt Martha's behavior is strange. Like I said, she talks to herself. She makes oddly formal statements, including mentioning she's the one that filled out the camp's medical form. She's like, "Oh, let me remind you, I filled out these forms for you. Don't let them know that I did it," or something like that. She's like, "Don't let them know I'm a doctor." I'm like, "She's a doctor?"
What? I don't know why either. And it's like, I think it would be funny. Before we started, we were talking about Pet Cemetery, which is an episode that already came out. And when you're saying she speaks and makes formal statements, all I'm picturing now is her using the accent that just that Judd used in Pet Cemetery.
And now here I am because I was doing it beforehand, and now I'm like, "Can I do it again?"
It's a
She's
hard
like,
one to get into. Like it's hard.
"Uh, here are your forms for camp. I did this. I filled out these forms for you.
I cannot
Don't tell
handle
him I'm
it.
not a doctor."
Oh my God.
Oh my God, his accent is classic. I love
It's
it.
my
I
favorite.
love it.
I
It's
feel
the
like that's
best
gonna be
accent.
just maybe forever. There's like a what does this sound like in Judd's accent segment of all of
I'd
every.
like some peanut butter and jelly today.
I love it. Okay.
All right. So the kids all get to Camp Arawak, and there's this scene where the kids are jumping off the buses and they're running. And per usual, it reminds me of a Jurassic Park scene. It's the scene where Dr. Grant and Tim and Lex, the kids, are stuck out in the open in the plains and they find themselves in that stampede
Oh,
of the Gallimimus running towards them at full speed. And that's what the kids are doing. They're running past people at full speed.
right.
It's like Ronnie and Mel are yelling stuff at them, which I don't know what they're yelling, to be quite honest. It's stuff like, "Hey, get fast, move faster, run fast." Like Mel is saying run faster, and Ronnie is telling them like, "We're gonna have dinner at a certain time. You gotta do it." Mind you, the kids are running like 10 miles an hour past these people.
Shouting instructions that
Right.
no one hears. Yeah.
So, I mean, the kids were like little dinosaurs running past everybody. The kitchen staff is watching the kids go by. One of them, named Arnie, makes a comment that the kids look like fresh chickens and calls them baldies.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna leave it there for a second
Yeah.
because it's an uncomfortable moment for me.
Just let it hang
Um,
in the air uncomfortably. Yeah.
And one of the other guys there named Ben, he says, "Oh, they don't know what you're thinking about."
Buddy, they're too young to even understand what's on your mind. Then, good buddy.
And he's laughing about it, but I'm like, that's still weird. And he said, "They're too young to know what's in your mind." And the guy, Arnie, says, "There's no such thing as being too young." So we already see
Blech.
that this is something really nasty going on, right? Ricky and Angela are walking. They run into Paul, which is Ricky's friend. And Paul basically says, like, "Hey, Ricky, you guys see Judy."
Hey, Rick, wait till you get a load of Judy. Man, oh, man. Oh, yeah? You'll see.
Judy got some knockers on her, so go look at her. They turn around, he goes off, and Ricky and Angela see Judy. And Ricky calls out to her, but she kind of ignores him, and he's like, "Well, I guess I'm not good enough for her anymore." He drops Angela off at her bunk, and Judy and Ricky share a moment where he calls her a bitch, and that's that.
I
Um,
like that you said they shared a moment, which usually is like
right, a heartfelt
a
moment.
heartfelt moment. No, but in this case, no,
Yeah, no.
no.
She really is your quintessential, not that cute, but very snobby. I think I'm all that because I have boobs and long hair type female. And I was just like, her attitude is so stank. So yeah, he called her a bitch. And I felt some type of way. I'm like, they're young to be using this type of language. Because this movie is a potty mouth. This movie is bad as far as the
So
potty mouth goes.
I will say this. So this is my first time actually ever watching this movie. Big surprise, I know. Sorry, everyone.
I'm usually the one that hasn't seen it, but I have seen this movie before.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
I was surprised by how young the theme was at camp because like I've seen so many of the others like just gonna say Friday the 13th as an example, like the kids are older in these
Mhm.
movies. So seeing all these like much younger kids and all the like creepy comments and like you're saying the cursing and strong language, I was kind of like, "Oh, this is a different kind of summer."
You know what though? You just mentioned Friday the 13th, but a lot of times Friday the 13th is focusing on the counselors and not the kids.
I think still in
So,
my brain, like that's just like what I
No,
expect,
I understand.
you
But
know?
some of these kids are very young. Some of them look like they have 401ks and could apply for AARP very soon. But some of them are relatively young. I mean, I think there are kids in this movie that probably around 7 or 8, to
Sure.
be honest.
Mhm.
But I get
I
it.
gotcha. I gotcha.
So we see that Angela is very shy. Ricky drops her off at her bunk, and immediately she makes eyes at Judy, and Angela does not speak. She just stares like very blankly, like no matter what anybody's saying, she's just like
Blank
her
stare
eyes are
clock.
very big, and she just stares. And so Meg, at this point, who's the mean counselor, comes in, and she's just like, "Look, I'm Meg. I'm the mean one. This one over here is Susie." And Susie's the very nice one. And she's like, if you got complaints, take it to Susie. And Meg immediately kind of, you can see that Meg and Judy are going to kind of gang up against Angela right away because they kind of come together and already make a little bit of fun of her.
So nice of them.
Right. Now, I will say I don't know how many days go by in this movie because every time we turn around, they're wearing different clothes. It is a different day, but I don't know if it's sequential days or if like a few
There's
days have
time
gone
in
by.
between. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. Because honestly, if we're thinking about like if the movie is going day by day as we're seeing it, all the events of this happened within like 5 days, which is wild. So I'm thinking it must be more than that. But regardless, at some point, well, no, this is 3 days later. I do remember because Meg specifically says she hasn't eaten in 3 days. Okay,
That
so
was our clue. That was our
right,
one clue.
there we
Oh
go.
my gosh, I haven't eaten in 3 days.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so Meg notices they're all at the calf or whatever, the club, Lord, the
They're
cabin
all
where
at the
they eat
club.
food. The food cabin,
The
okay?
forest club. Yep.
And Meg notices that Angela is not eating anything, so she tells Ronnie. And there's a weird interaction between Meg and Mel. Like she kind of walks up on him and gives him this hug, and he like kind of hugs her back, like it's like a side hug, like almost like a friendly hug. But as she's walking away with Ronnie to go back to Angela, he pats her on the ass. And then it's like, that's a little off because she's clearly an older teenager. Meg might be around 16, 17. I give you 18 at max.
Right.
Okay. So Ronnie is like, oh, Angela, let me take you to the kitchen. You know, maybe you just need something to eat. So Ronnie takes her to the kitchen, introduces her to Arnie, and says, hey, Arnie, get her some food. He says, okay. And he immediately like hones in on her. He takes her into the walk-in kitchen and like attempts to molest her, basically. He gets ready to take his
Yeah.
pants off, but
Ugh.
Ricky, who had been looking for her, comes into the kitchen and catches him. So that stops anything from happening. They run out. As they're coming out, Mel sees them running by and says to Arnie, like, what happened? He's like, oh, I guess I scared him. But Mel has this look on his face like he knows that Arnie is a pervert. And he's
Right.
just like, okay. And Ben, who is odd, Ben is an odd character because he kind of just smiles like a lovable doof the whole time, and he just kind of makes a face too while he's like stirring a pot or something. So anyway, they run out of there. So a little bit later, it's the same day. Ben and Arnie are peeling. I think his name's Artie. I'm calling him Arnie, but RT.
Same thing. Whatever.
Yeah,
Who
that guy, the
cares?
perv, the perv.
The
So
pervert guy.
they're getting corn ready to boil, and they have a pot that's probably about 4 feet tall on the stove. Ben leaves out for a minute while Artie is checking to see if the pot is boiling. He stands up on a chair and he's checking it. He's putting salt in it, and we see from the perspective of somebody who comes in and they basically shake the chair enough to push Artie onto the floor, and the pot falls on top of him, boiling him to not to death because he doesn't die, but it's boiling him. And it's one of the scenes where they show his face, he's screaming really loud, his face is bubbling, it's pulsating, and there's skin peeling off. And this is something that bothers me in this movie. Ben comes running in to see what's going on. Mind you, I don't know what he was doing because he said, I'm gonna see you later, but he ran in like his boxer shorts and a t-shirt. Don't know what he was doing, but he stares at Artie on the floor, burning to death, and he's just like, and they keep going back to Artie's face, bubbling and pulsing, and then
Yeah.
back to Ben. And honestly, and I'm not going to mention again, but everybody does this. In fact, in the first scene where the father and the kids were ran over by the motorboat, that's the same thing that happened. The two kids in the boat were like, and there's a man on the shore, which was with them, and he's also just And the only
Yeah.
person that's complaining is like the girl who was on the jet ski saying, "Get the people out, get the people out, they're dying." But everybody else was just, I don't understand it. Can we move to
Yeah.
action?
There was a
Could
lot of extended shots of nothing.
yes, of
Like, yeah.
in action and nothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was, yeah. I feel you.
So
I get
so
it.
so anyway, and also let me just say Ben is played by Robert Earl Jones. And if you don't know who that is, it is actually
Mm.
James Earl Jones's father, which I did not know because I kept saying he looks familiar, he sounds familiar. Let me look this up. And lo and behold, it's his dad. I was expecting it to be like his brother or something, but no, it is his dad.
I actually
Um,
forget because I watched this a few days ago. I forget what he looks like. What's his name again? I'm so sorry.
Robert Earl Jones.
Robert Earl Jones. I need to look him up. Robert Earl
He looks just
Jones.
like James Earl Jones when you look at him.
Oh no, I got a pop-up picture of him when he was older, and he still is precious and lovely. But yeah,
Yeah,
when he's young,
looks
holy
just like him.
moly.
Yeah, yeah. I
Wow.
might put a picture up of him so you can see him. Well, probably. I might have pictures up
Oh,
if I can, if I can remember. I think he died in 2006, I believe. Um,
yes, in New Jersey of all places. Sorry. Sorry, bud.
no.
He was very handsome. Wow.
This incident is ruled as an accident, and Mel promotes Ben and he offers him 50 extra dollars for the week, each week,
Woohoo.
and offers the other younger guys who help in the kitchen 15 extra dollars. But he tells them, you need to keep this incident a secret. And Ben is like, well, I always thought Artie had a little devil up in him. I'm just like,
Oh
oh my
no.
God. Just imagine James Earl Jones saying that though, okay? Because they have similar voices. James Earl Jones's voice is deeper, but they have the same
Right.
cadence. So
Precious.
uh, I wish I could describe the facial expressions in this because Ben in particular, I know I didn't really talk a lot about him in the beginning because he's not really a main character, but he has the most interesting facial features or facial expressions in this movie because he goes from looking very like scared and innocent to like kind of like smiling, then he's like really worried and his face is so expressive more than anybody else's. So I just thought that was interesting, but
Do you think it's like overly done?
yes, I
Okay.
absolutely do.
You know what I was thinking of immediately is like if you ever take an acting class or like a theater general class, they do those exercises where they do make you do that. So it's like maybe
Mm,
he just went back to like those
maybe.
roots and it was like, okay, now look worried. And you're like immediately, right? There's no subtlety to it. It's like now you're really sad. Like
Hmm.
it's like, okay, I'll be really sad. Like, so
Yeah, and that's exactly how it was because he went from when they were talking about the incident, he went from like, and then Mel is like, well, I'll give you an extra $50 because you're the head chef now.
you're
He
like
went, well, he always had a little devil up in him. It was so weird how he
maybe
went
the
from,
director, how directors shout from
yeah,
they're like, now change your face. Now do that. Okay.
yeah.
That's very
So,
funny. That's very funny.
but yeah, so they're keeping the secret for Mel, and they're not going to tell the camp
Right.
counselors that Artie died, or he didn't die, but that Artie was burnt up. Because when he leaves, he doesn't leave in a body bag; he leaves like wrapped up. So we assume that he may have lived. But this is just the beginning of many other accidents that happens.
Dun
And
dun dun.
so now we kind of move on. Some other stuff happens. There's like a baseball game, stuff like that. Everybody's wearing panties and tank tops. Those are the boys, by the way, not the girls. But one night at a social, two of the guys, Kenny and Billy, they tease Angela after she ignores their request to go skinny dipping. And it's basically like a dare. It wasn't like they really wanted to, but they said, oh, if you could get Angela, that'd be great, blah, blah, blah. So, she does her deadpan stare like, whatever. So Ricky and Paul come in as they're teasing her, and a fight ensues. And that leaves Paul to comfort Angela after everything kind of settles down. And they start having a conversation, and she actually starts to open up to him, and she speaks for the first time, telling him good night, which excites Paul because he's like, good night. I love how Paul talks. He's like so cute. He was so excited that she said good night. But
Golly
um,
gee. Yeah.
right? But Judy was lurking in the background because she's across the way watching what's happening, surrounded by boys because she has boobs.
That's all it takes sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
But because she dislikes Angela so much, she's very fixated on the fact that Paul is showing her attention.
Mm.
Afterwards, the kids, the boys, they decide that they're still going to go skinny dipping, and the girls go as well. Now, the girls do not get in the water like that. There are like two girls that get into a canoe with two guys, but the most of the boys get naked and go skinny dipping, which fun fact about this scene, in fact, this movie was filmed later in the fall.
Oh no.
And so it was actually cold, and there are certain scenes where you can see breath coming out of people's mouths. Like there's a scene with Aunt Martha where there's actual breath coming out and you can see it. And
Mm.
the kids, when they jump into the water, there's like a really odd like haze over the water. And you might think, oh, that's like when it's hot outside and you get that haze. No, it was because it was cold outside.
Oh.
And one of the actors in this scene said he was very uncomfortable being completely naked because they were completely naked, and it was very, very cold getting in the water.
Oh.
And he was very upset that he was cold in the water. So,
Gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
so one of the boys, Kenny, is in the canoe with one of the girls. He tips it over purposely. She gets pissed off, and he's still underneath the canoe. All of the boys kind of leave him because they're like, oh, whatever. But what they don't realize is that underneath the canoe, Kenny has been killed. Someone comes up under the canoe into the water and kills him, where he is found the next morning by a lifeguard with like water. He's waterlogged. He has a water snake coming out of his mouth and stuff like that.
Hot.
And so,
Yeah.
right. And
Mm-hmm.
so now we have a small group of kids that are kind of standing by. The Mel's there, Ronnie's there, and there's a police officer. And Mel is like, this was an accident. It was just an accident. So the cop is like, I don't know yet. Like, it could be an accident, but we have to check. The coroner's going to have to look. The medical examiner's going to have to check it out. We'll see after autopsy. So Mel is just still very concerned about the reputation of the camp. And he walks off. Well, he stops Ronnie from saying something, but he walks off to go call Kenny's parents. And Ronnie then speaks to the cop and he's like, look, I thought that kid was a really good swimmer. So this seems kind of off.
Mm.
So, that's kind of your first clue that this might be something a little bit more sinister than just a
Something
kid.
strange. Yeah.
Yeah. Later, the boys, Angela is walking to go see her cousin, and the boys, the same group of boys that are just taunting her, are on top of a roof having a water balloon fight, and one of them throws a balloon and it hits Angela in like the stomach area. Now, honestly, I it knocked her down. I don't see why she would have fell, but she did. And of course, Ricky and Paul see this and they run over, and Paul is helping her, and then Ricky starts cussing out the boys. I'm gonna kill you. Da 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 da. Mel happens to be nearby and he comes and breaks it up because he's hearing Ricky say, I'm going to kill them. And he basically says, look, both groups are in trouble. You guys aren't going to get commissary. You're not going to get commissary either. Break it up or whatever. But a little bit later, as the guys that were in trouble, not Ricky, but the other guys that were in trouble, they're all going to go play some type of game. And the one, Billy, who was the second boy who was taunting Angela earlier on, he says he's going to go take a dump. So,
I love that we always have a Billy
right?
of some kind.
I thought about that as soon as I
We
said,
always
well,
have a Billy.
he wasn't a preferred Billy, but he's a Billy
He's not a puppet of
nonetheless.
some kind, so we like
Right.
him less, but it's still a Billy.
Yes.
Um,
So while Billy is on the crapper, someone cuts the screen behind him, and they put in a whole like bee nest basically inside the bathroom. And now, mind you, they have also put a like a almost like a what was that, broomstick up
mhm.
against the door through the little handles to keep the door closed. Of course, Billy can't get out. Eventually, when he does get out, we have a very my girl moment where he is, if you know, you know, where he is stung to holy hell. And it's probably one of the more grotesque looking kills because he has giant holes in his skin where it looked like bees may have burrowed into his skin or
Murder
something.
hornets. I
Yeah,
don't
it,
know.
it might have been. I mean, we had that epidemic murder hornets at one point.
All kind of problems.
Oh
Whenever anyone mentions my girl, I just immediately go to, where are his glasses? He can't see without his glasses.
my God, that's
Every
so
time.
sad.
Yeah, I know.
That is probably the saddest part of that movie. That
Yeah.
That is a classic scene, though. I did
It
love that movie. That was the movie that made me love Macaulay Culkin. Okay.
He was amazing in that movie, and the actress that played Veda, why, of course, I can't think of her name, was incredible
She
for such a
was.
young spring chicken.
She played that part so well.
She
So,
really
so well.
did.
You felt her anguish and her pain throughout that entire movie. So yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. I agree. Murder
He
hornets
looks
aside,
yeah.
yeah.
So he's gross. So now we have another kill. Meanwhile, Paul is starting to get close to Angela. He treats her very kindly, and one night they meet and they go down to the beach where Paul is trying to make out with her. And she begins to have a flashback of her father in bed with another man, which is the man that was also there that day when the accident happened, because the man was on the beach yelling at them to get out the water because a doctor was coming or something. So anyway, didn't know who that man was. I assumed he was a friend, but
Right.
apparently that was their father's lover, okay? At least
Side
based on this
piece.
flashback, right? At least based on
Side
this flash.
piece. Yeah.
They're watching the flashback. Angela and her brother are watching the two men in the bed and they're giggling about it and they're pointing at each other. It's a very interesting flashback, but suddenly she gets very upset and she pushes Paul off and she runs away, leaving Paul very confused. And so, of course, like I said, Judy notices this whole time that the pair is getting closer and it makes her jealous, it makes her more furious, and increases her cruelty towards Angela. During a game of Capture the Flag, Paul does try to talk to Angela about what happened, but she's not interested in hearing that. So of course, Judy, seeing all of this going on, she decides to make a move on Paul. So at this point, Angela walks away. Ricky's like, "Hey, I got an idea. Come with me. We're gonna, capture the flag and end the game." Angela's reluctant, but she says, "Okay." When they're in the woods, she walks up on Paul and Judy kissing each other. And of course, that makes Angela go right back into her shell. She's no longer talking. She's back to being the withdrawn Angela that we've known and loved. So the next day, or some days later, who knows? Paul, they're going swimming, and Angela, by the way, does not participate in anything. She participated in Capture the Flag because she had little flags on as if she was playing, but she does not participate in like volleyball, swimming. She usually just sits on the sidelines and does not say anything. So the next day of swimming, Paul tries to apologize to Angela for what he did, but Judy walks over and spills that Paul called Angela a prude, and that makes Paul very uncomfortable, so he leaves. So once Paul walks away, Meg and Judy decide they're going to pick Angela up and throw her into the water. Now, mind you, remember Angela has this traumatic memory of being in the water. She starts screaming she can't swim. All we can think about is the fact that her dad and her brother were mowed down by a damn rowboat, or not rowboat, it was a motorboat.
Yeah.
So I'm sure she does not want to get into the water, but
No.
they're trying to take her and throw her into water. And at the same time, Mel confronts Ricky because now he's suspicious and thinks that Ricky is the camp killer. And he's holding Ricky and he's like, "Every time something happens with your cousin, you go run into her aid and somebody dies." And Ricky's like, "I don't know what you're talking about, but you got to let me go because I need to go help my cousin." And he gets free right after Meg and Judy are able to throw Angela into the water. And he goes and helps her out. And that's that. So this is where things start to ramp up. This at some night, don't know what night it is. Could be the same night, could be the next night, who knows when it was.
No one knows.
But this is the night where certain camp counselors have off, and Meg happens to be one of the counselors who has off for that night. And there's another counselor who's told to take his young boy troop camping in the woods, which he's very upset about. And so Meg is like, "Oh, that's great." She decides to ask Mel to have dinner with her. She's like, "Remember that time we talked about having a dinner date?"
Listen, I was thinking. Remember that dinner you promised me up at your place?
Yeah, 9:30.
You got it. See you then.
Now, mind you, Mel is like, I'm gonna say a cool 60 years old at least,
Yeah.
or a very old looking 50-year-old. And again, we said Meg is like 18 max, and Meg is honestly very excited. Like she's excited as if this is her dream man.
I was confused.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cause she's like, "I have a date." Like she goes back to her bunk and Judy's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, I have a date." She's like, "With who?" "Can't tell you, it's a secret." It's like, "Oh, okay." But she's very excited and she ends
That
up
man's a
going,
borderline pedophile.
yeah,
Like, if
yeah,
she's 18, if she's under 18, like 100%, but he
right,
knows where she's
right,
from too. So I don't know. I don't like it.
right. And YouTube guides Just so you know, we're talking about a movie. None of the people in this podcast are actual PDF files, okay? This is all
Yeah.
fictional, okay? So bots, please don't just start flagging our stuff and make it age
Mhm.
restricted because
Slander. Yeah, no.
right.
No. It's just a movie, everyone.
Yes.
Okay.
So the line to get a shower is long, so Meg goes to the empty bunk next door to take a shower. While she's getting ready, she's stabbed in the back and dies.
This one was a funny one.
Yeah,
I
because she's
thought
like she's like washing, she's like fake washing up with soap. It's like not even touching her
I
skin, but
noted I made a mental note of that because she's like she has the soap, right? And she's just like
right, it's like not even touching her.
it's
And
not
she
even
keeps
touching
doing
her.
like this on her chest, but it's not touching at
They
all.
were like, they're like, listen, we don't have any more budget for soap, so that's all we have. Don't actually get it wet. Don't
Right.
touch it to your body. That's it.
Right.
No more money for soap. So,
Right. And so whoever has the knife, they just go back and slice her right down her back, and she ends up dying in the shower. Now, Mel eventually goes looking for Meg, and he finds Judy in her bunk being a slut. She has a boy hidden under her bunk, and she tells him, "Oh, Meg went for a shower next door." Mel goes over and finds her body and loses his shit. Now, Judy is also attacked shortly after in her bunk. The boy leaves because he's like, I don't want to be caught by Mel, so he leaves. The method that Judy is killed is not really shown, but it is strongly implied that she is killed with a heated curling iron. All we know is that there was a pillow that was put over her face. The curling iron that was hot because she was curling her hair was placed somewhere. We don't know where, but it killed her. Whatever you want to imagine with that, go ahead and imagine with that. Additionally to that, and I kind of skipped this part, but I'm bringing it back because it's still a kill. Remember I said that there was a counselor that took his young kids into the woods to camp. Well, there were two little kids that really wanted to go back. They didn't want to be out there, whatever. He takes the kids back and he looks back at his young sleeping kids and he's like, "No, they'll be okay." Like he kind of looks like, "Should I leave them? Should I not?" But he does. When he comes back, he sees that they have been slaughtered. And
Yeah.
he instantly throws up. And so that's unfortunate. They shouldn't have been killed, but they were.
I feel like
Um
that's a reasonable reaction to finding that. Just like
oh yeah.
immediately to
Yeah.
vomit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
While all this is going on, back at the social hall, Paul runs into Angela and asks her for another chance. And Angela's kind of distracted and she kind of like turns her back to him. She's like, "Meet me at the beach after the social." And he's like, "Okay," like in that same funky voice that he does all the time,
Yeah.
right? So at this point, Mel catches Ricky alone in the woods and beats him for filth, believing that he killed Meg and the others. And he's basically saying, like, "I had you before. I shouldn't have let you go. I was talked out of this. And, you're the killer. You're the killer." And Ricky is like, basically, "I didn't do anything. I don't know what you're talking about." But he beats him severely and Mel leaves him for dead, running off. However, right after he runs off, he is caught in the neck with an arrow by the killer. So all this time, it was building up as if Ricky was the killer, but Ricky is not the killer because Ricky is laying dying a few feet away from now where Mel has been impaled by an arrow.
That did give me Friday the 13th.
It was very
It
much
was very
Friday
reminiscent of
13th
Friday the
vibes.
13th.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. Yes, it was.
Yes.
That was almost exactly
It
the
really
same.
was. I was like, this feels very familiar. Yes.
Yes. At this point, Ronnie is rushing around. He's like, "Okay, we got to get all the camp counselors together. There's something going on. There's something wrong." They call the cops. One of the other counselors and a cop finds Ricky and they find out he's still alive. So they take care of him. But in the meantime, Roddy and Susie search for the other missing campers. And it's believed at this point that they've found everybody. Most people are accounted for. They don't know that Ricky has been found though. So they believe that Paul, Ricky, Judy, and Angela are all missing because no one has found Judy yet. They just found the counselors just found Meg, so they know that she's not alive anymore. Ronnie and Susie are walking towards the beach and they're calling out for these kids and whatnot. Ronnie hears a strange humming sound and they find that Angela is sitting on the beach with Paul and she's very calm. But then we see some flashbacks that show when the accident happened. We have a kid that's all bandaged up and Aunt Martha is just like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're coming to live with us." And I always wanted a little girl, and Angela, oh, I think it means angel. It's such a beautiful name. And we come to find out that Angela is actually Peter. Angela died that day, and Peter is the boy who survived.
Dun,
And
dun, dun. Yeah.
Aunt Martha, who was already very mentally unstable, decided to raise Peter as Angela because she already had a boy and she always wanted a daughter.
Yeah.
With that said, the final shot is of Angela. She stands up. She's naked. She's blood covered. She's expressionless. We see that Paul's head has been severed from his body because
Hmm.
she has killed him for kissing Judy. And she's making these strange animalistic noises. And as the camera's like zoomed in on her frozen face, because it's just like, as the camera kind of pulls out, we find that Angela is naked, like I said. And of course, because she's Peter, she's anatomically male. And
Hmm.
so we see all her front parts.
All the
And
parts.
yeah. And then, of course, the screen freezes again on Angela's wide eyed face. And the credits begin to roll. And that, my friends, is Sleepaway Camp.
Sleepaway Camp.
Yes.
Wow.
So, with that being said, before we get into our fun facts, what are your thoughts about Sleepaway Camp?
Okay. Well, so this is my first time watching. One of the thoughts I was having while I was watching this, because I wasn't like loving it, right? Is I was like, had I watched this as a youth, when I watched the other movies that I love, would I like it better? Right? Because some of the movies that we have watched, I have admitted, aren't maybe amazing, but they have a nostalgia factor for me that makes them still great. This one was like slow for me. It was kind of hard to get into until like the action kind of started. The weird like pedophilic, that's not a word.
That fits though. We need to mask it.
Content, yep, we're masking it up. Was like off-putting because it wasn't necessary for any reason. It didn't drive the story at all. It was just gross. I thought it had a lot of interesting kills. I like that part, especially for the time, especially for the gore factor, but also the acting. I think I did text you at one point. I was like, "Oh man, the acting is stiff in this
Hmm.
in this movie." So yeah, I mean, I found it to be kind of a mixed bag, but like for the time, like I know you're usually the one that says that. Like for the time, like it was okay. It was okay. That's how I don't have anything glowing or unglowing to say about it really. I'm just like, it's fine.
Okay.
But what about you?
So this is my second time at least watching this movie.
Hmm.
Like I was telling Megan earlier, I watched this movie a while ago and I didn't really pay attention to some of the themes. And so this time around, I was very shocked by the PDF file comments, especially the part about the young chickens and calling the kids baldies because clearly you know what that's referring to, and so it's just like, oh, that's nasty. And
Right.
it's interesting because even later on Judy says to Angela she's bald downstairs or something like that.
She takes showers when no one can see. She has no hair down below. Judy, she's a real carpenter's dream. The light is a board and needs a screw. That's enough! Fuck off!
And I'm like, why are we referencing pubic areas?
Yeah,
But
we don't need to do that.
so I mean, that was a little odd. And then, of course, realizing that Mel and Meg were like trying to get it in because that's really what she was getting ready to take a everything shower. Like, that's what she was getting ready to do. Like, get
In
her,
everything
yeah,
shower.
she was getting herself ready for the night. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? To throw down. So,
Yeah, sure.
so that was very interesting. But I will say, this movie still gave me the little nostalgia vibes because I had seen it prior. I still found it interesting to watch. The acting
Mm.
was horrible and very stiff.
Right.
Especially it's so funny because Robert Earl Jones was like the weirdest fucking character to me. Like I was just so I couldn't describe how I felt about him. It was like weird. I liked him, but at the same time I was weirded out by him because of how he acted.
I do want to go back and like zero in on him specifically.
Yeah, like definitely go back and watch
Yeah.
how he acts like from the beginning and any scene that he's in, it's very odd. He plays it's not even like he plays comic relief, he's just different. He's just odd.
Right.
Again, I do like the kills. I think the kills were very interesting.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that
yeah.
they were very well done for the time, 1983. And I think that considering this was an ultra low budget movie and also it was Robert
I
the
was at
director.
Kirkland. Isn't that like the Costco off-brands, I think,
Yes,
right?
Kirkland.
I'm like, yeah, Kirkland.
Robert Hiltzik.
There we go. There.
Yeah, it's Robert Hiltzik's first movie and like one of the only ones he did. Until he did, I believe, the next Sleepaway Camp. He did another one after this, 20
Hmm.
years later.
Thanks for
Um,
that. Hmm.
but I think that that was very like this is good enough. You know what I'm saying? Like he had a good try. I think this was better than Texas Chainsaw Massacre's acting and stuff. I
Don't bring
had
Toby Hooper into this.
I had a worse time getting through Texas Chainsaw Massacre than this. Now,
Really?
yes, now I don't remember my rating for Texas Chainsaw Massacre at all. At some point when we're going through, because if you've seen, we have gone through some of our movies from the previous year. When we get to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I remember this one, I'm going to make sure I make an adjustment to make sure whatever Texas Chainsaw Massacre is, it's lower than this, whatever it
Oh,
is.
our friend
But
Robert Hiltzik, he's from New York. He's a New Yorker. He went to Hofstra,
oh,
local boy.
excuse
He
me.
went to the Tisch School of the Arts. He now works as a partner in a New York City law firm. No one saw that plot twist
Mm,
coming.
well, there you
It's
go.
like, sir, I need to file a lawsuit, but also, can we talk while we're waiting about your films? Sleepaway Camp? No?
Yeah. He
Any?
also married somebody from the movie, but I don't remember who it was. He married one of the girls. They got engaged shortly after the first movie was made. Um,
His Wikipedia is very short.
I'm sure there's not much to tell. So,
No.
but yeah. So I mean, this movie was interesting. I wasn't mad at it. I wasn't mad at it.
Michelle Tatsoian?
Yeah, I don't know who
That's
she was
his
though.
that's his wife. Hold on, let's look. Sleepaway Camp. She was I pull up IMDb. It says she's known for Sleepaway Camp. I'm like, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Who? Who was she? She was a producer? That's what it says.
Oh, okay. Well, I just
And
knew
a
I just knew
casting
somebody.
director.
Okay. I knew
Casting director.
somebody. I knew he married somebody from the movie, but I didn't know what part. I didn't pay attention to that. It was one
All
of
right.
those Amazon Prime pop-up windows, like pop-up video, and I just didn't pay attention.
Pop-up video. Yep.
Right.
Okay.
So, I guess I will go ahead to our fun facts. Of course, the budget for this movie was estimated at around $350,000, and it
Wow.
grossed over 11 million, making it a
Wow.
financial
I'll
success.
say.
Yes. So
Damn.
I will say that unfortunately the critics trashed this movie in the 80s,
I can't
saying
imagine why.
saying that it was exploitative and poorly acted, and Variety called it a tasteless throwback. However, audiences over the years have embraced this cult classic, not for the quality, but for the vibes and the ending. On Rotten Tomatoes, it does have a 77% audience score despite a much lower critical rating.
Hmm.
So there's
Okay.
that for those reviews. Now, the ending of this movie was kept secret from the cast, so the final reveal of Angela's
Oh,
identity was so shocking that many of the cast members didn't know how the film was going to end until they actually saw it.
that's pretty cool. That's like
Yeah.
a fun game for them, right?
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, yeah. Same.
And so the infamous final scene was not actually shot with Felicia Rose, who was the actress who played Angela. It was a college student boy, body double wearing a custom-made Angela mask of her face, paired with he had prosthetic genitals, so not his real genitals, but it was prosthetic genitals. And the student was reportedly very uncomfortable and had to be heavily intoxicated to go through
Oh,
with the scene.
oh no. Okay.
So
Poor
that's
guy.
funny. Yeah. So this filming was very rough. It was underfunded. It was shot over 5 weeks during the fall in upstate New York,
Wow.
and the movie had to make it look like summer, even though it was freezing outside. And like I said, sometimes you could see the actor's breath in the scenes,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate because they were wearing coochie cutters and tank tops and stuff the whole time, and it's freezing outside. And so it's just like that's wild. Like I commend these kids for jumping into the water in
Yeah,
freezing cold temperatures. So no,
I
thank you.
agree.
And it says the actors were real teenagers, unlike many horror movies that used adults. So you're right, they were actually young. And that helped give the film a more awkward, realistic edge, especially since many of the scenes deal with adolescence and identity.
Right.
So yeah, so there were there were people who looked like they were getting ready to collect Social Security. I'm not lying about that. But there were a lot
Well,
of kids that actually were in this film.
yes, I will say this, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, but not too long ago, I was going through my mom's high school yearbook. right? And for the time that she graduated, everyone looked hella old because of the styles of the time, like the hair, the facial hair, whatever. So I can understand maybe why some people looked
Right, old.
older because I was confused. I was like, why does everyone look middle-aged in your yearbook? Like what what's happening
It's
here?
funny, yeah.
More
Yeah.
like the men than the women, but yeah, still.
And that's
So,
what I noticed too. It was like the men in this movie looked very old. Like the
yeah.
boys, some of the boys looked very old. I will add, fun fact, I didn't write it down, but in the scene where all the kids were running like little raptors past all the people, some of Felicia Rose's family members were included in that. So like her cousins and stuff, they
Oh,
allowed them to be extras running past the camera.
that's
So
fun.
yeah. So the director, Robert, never made another film until 2003 after Sleepaway Camp. Robert Hiltzik disappeared from filmmaking entirely and became a practicing lawyer.
He was too busy passing the bar. Like he didn't
Right,
have time to. I just think that's such a funny shift, right? Because I feel like a lot of lawyers get burnt out of that. Like it's a very hard
right.
job and be like, I'm gonna go open a bar. I'm gonna make movies. I'm gonna do something else. He did the opposite. So I think that's very funny.
Well, since he didn't make another film, he went from 1983 to 2003 without making anything.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know. It's crazy.
So,
Crazy, crazy.
he did return 20 years later, and he wrote and directed Return to Sleepaway Camp from 2008, which is
Mm.
a direct sequel that ignored all the other unofficial sequels and brought Felicia Rose back as Angela. Now,
Wow.
I have not seen any of the other Sleepaway Camp movies. I do know that
Hmm.
there's like a direct Sleepaway Camp 2 and stuff like that. Like, I didn't see any of those. I also have not seen Return to Sleepaway Camp either, but I feel like that might be interesting because, like, did Angela go to jail since she was a
Yeah,
serial
that's
killer?
a good
You know what
question.
I'm saying? Like, so I don't know what happened. And since this movie from 2008 is going to basically become canon over anything else that came out, I feel like if I watch anything, I need to just watch this one since this is supposed to
So, yeah.
be a direct sequel.
So yeah, there was sleep. What? Why is that? Oh, that looks weird. So I just hovered over the Sleepaway Camp 2 Unhappy Campers. The cover legit looks like a cover from an adult store.
Definitely putting that one up.
Yeah. It just says Camp 2 and there's like a girl wearing short shorts and she's looking over her shoulder and she has like 80s makeup and also a hockey mask. 'Cause it's definitely giving Jason ripoff, Friday the 13th ripoff. Also, there's a Freddy glove in the thing.
Oh wow. They really hitting
They're really
everything
ripping
up.
shit off. But yeah, no, that looks terrible. Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland, which is just boobs. That's the cover, is just boobs. And But let's see. Return to Sleepaway Camp. It didn't give me a cover. The cover is classier. The tagline, this is sad. After 20 years, they come back on there. The it says kids can be so mean. That's what took you 20 years? Come on.
Oh,
Come on, my
oh.
guy. Oh, so I wasn't going to read any of this to you guys, but I just want to tell you the first thing I read under plot, this is the very first thing it says. I'm going to try to get through with a straight face. Okay. Several boys are lighting farts, and after failing, Alan threatens them, but is soon stopped by a camp counselor. Like, that's how it starts.
They're lighting farts. Wow.
But for that to be
Wow.
like the first line, it just took
Right.
me by surprise, and
First
it
of all,
just,
for that to be any line in your synopsis, like that should
uh,
not be there at all. Like it shouldn't be there.
but also it just immediately changes scenes. Wait, I'm gonna read it again so you guys get the picture of what I'm getting. Several hmm. Several boys are lighting farts, and after failing, Alan threatens them but is soon stopped by a camp counselor, Randy. Change scene. In the dining hall, Alan gets violent. Like, you didn't even need to write.
Oh my gosh.
Randy Alan gets into a violent confrontation with Randy after he complains about the food. It's like, what? Randy doesn't like anything. Food, lighting farts, nothing.
Yeah.
Randy sounds like a drag. Anyway, this movie sounds like a, I don't know, but the budget was $4 million, so
Interesting.
maybe they had a better soap budget.
Perhaps.
They can actually like, eh.
Perhaps.
Wow, okay, that was a fun emotional
Yeah.
roller coaster. Yeah.
Well, so this movie became a cult classic thanks to VHS and word of mouth. The movie did not make a huge splash in theaters, but its bizarre tone and, of course, the unforgettable twist helped develop a cult following in the home video era.
Mm,
And it's now considered a staple of 80s horror oddities, often compared to Friday the 13th, but with a much stranger psychological bent to it.
and worse acting.
It also has a legacy and controversy. So the film's final twist has been a major topic of debate, especially in LGBTQIA plus and trans representation discussions. Some critics view it as transphobic, while others interpret it as a metaphor for forced gender identity and trauma. And so Felicia Rose, who played Angela, has spoken up about this publicly, saying that she supports trans rights and understands why people feel conflicted about the film's message, which,
Hmm.
I could understand too, because if you're just watching it straight on, it does look like it's a odd, maybe transphobic movie. But at the same time, I can also see how it was the forced gender identity, the trauma, because Peter was forced to play a girl for years after losing his sister, which, to be honest,
Yeah.
I never paid attention. I don't know if they're twins or not, but they may have been twins, which even makes that even more
We didn't see them
traumatic.
for long enough to like
Right,
really
to
know.
know. Right.
Yeah.
So if they were
Hmm.
twins, that's even worse. So the identity there is really interesting
Yeah.
because the scene where I said the flashback where they're laughing at the two men in the bed and everything like that,
Right.
and the kids are pointing at each other, and it's weird because it's like Peter is like pointing really closely to Angela's chest, and he just keeps getting closer and closer each time they show him, and I'm like, that's interesting. Like it's very,
Yeah, yeah.
metaphoric, but who knows what they actually meant because that scene is so quick and then it's over and then you move on.
Yeah. I feel like I agree with that. Like, I don't think there's anything, and again, it could be like almost like a microaggression, right? Where it's like, I don't think there's anything outwardly transphobic about it, but I do tend to lean more towards like the forced like you're saying, that makes a lot of sense. But again, possibly it's buried in there. Like, so it's hard to say.
Maybe.
So it's like, I get what you're saying too, where it's like potentially if people feel like that, I could understand why at the same time. So
Yeah.
I get it.
Because nobody said anything bad about Angela
No, no.
being a boy at the end. At the end, Ronnie, I believe, just says she's actually a boy. She's a boy. Like that's the very last line. She's a boy.
Right.
That's it. There's nothing like, oh my God, ew, she's a boy. It's nothing like that.
They're just
It's just
confused. They're just like, what
right.
the fuck? Yeah.
Because all this time, first of all, she's holding a severed head, but second, she's naked and she's bloody, and
I feel like that. But it's funny that that's the line. Oh my God, she's a boy. Because my line is, oh my God, she has a severed head.
right.
So
Right.
that's
Like
kind of like
I'm
a
the
funny.
first thing isn't the fact that she has a pee. Like I'm just automatically like, oh my God, Paul is dead. And then it's, oh my God, Angela killed him. Oh my God, Angela has a penis. But that's
There's a
like the
lot
third
going on with
thing.
Angela right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree.
So, I wouldn't have necessarily thought that, but I do think that I could understand too why this is such a important movie
Yeah,
with
yeah.
LGBTQIA plus people because even like I said, I talked about the men wearing their crop tops and their short shorts and stuff like that. But to be honest, it does give me like that feeling of like freedom to wear whatever you like,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
you want, however it fits you. I felt like the men had much more fluidity in their clothing than the women did, to be quite
Sure.
honest. And so I understand it. And even like with the two men in the bed, in the flashback, like nobody was like, ew. Like the kids were giggling, but
No,
I
no.
think that was like kids giggling at seeing
Yeah.
like their dad with somebody. It
Kids laugh at
wasn't
all kind of shit.
right. It wasn't like disrespectful laughing at it or
Mm-mm.
anything. So, I don't think that anybody who made this movie, well, Robert, I don't think that he meant it in a negative way, but I
Let's
do
ask him.
understand, right?
And here's
But
Robert now. I'm
he's a
just
lawyer
kidding.
now, so he'd be like, my lawyer won't let me speak about this. But yeah, I think it's a decent movie, and I don't
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
they meant any harm by it. And so,
No.
but yeah, oh, and then of course, Judy's death is heavily censored, but that's what made it iconic. And the scene where Judy is killed with that curling iron, mostly off screen, is something that stuck with viewers. And so the implication of what happened to her is so horrific for fans and critics that they say
Right.
it's one of the most disturbing death scenes in 80s horror, and
Wow.
it never even shows you anything explicit, which is true. Because I'll be honest with you, in my mind, I'm like, did she like clip her labia or something? Like, what did she do? Like, I'm just wondering because it's a curling iron.
They put it up her butt. I don't know. I'm just
I don't
saying.
know, but
We don't know.
but whatever it was, it made her like hold her hands up like
That's terrible.
until she
Yeah.
died.
No.
So it's a very interesting
Yeah.
thing,
That's
but
gross.
yeah,
Gross.
so those are the end of my fun facts. And so
Fun facts.
with that being said, I think it's time. How many bloody axes are you giving Sleepaway Camp?
I'm gonna give it 6. I'm gonna give it a 6. 6 bloody axes. Like I said, it was a little tough for me to get through. The acting was so stiff. The kills were good, especially stuff for the time. The twist, you know what I mean? I thought that was really cool. The fact that this budget was so low for this and they still were able to get away with those kind of effects and things. And just the end, it was weird. It was so weird for me that the last pose of Angela, or really Peter, I guess, right? With the face just like frozen, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, they're like, look, it's Angela, but Angela is Peter. And the fact that the Angela we've known this whole time, who seemed a little maybe like just almost had PTSD, right? But is now standing with a like a open, unhinged jaw like a snake, standing and staring. And that's they keep going back, like you were saying throughout the movie, they keep going back and forth between like stuff, but then they keep showing that face, and it was like, why? It just seemed like a weird place to end it. So that was like I can't give it higher than a 6, but I appreciate it. I respect it. I didn't love it. If that makes sense. What about you?
I think that, like I said, I've seen this movie before. I think it's a solid 80s movie as far as the time.
Mm.
And I do think that it was Robert's good try at a movie,
Good try.
and he did better than Toby.
Always bringing Toby into it.
He did better than Reese too. So I mean,
I can't talk about him.
uh,
I can't. I was sent a cease and desist by Reese Wakefield to stop talking
whatever.
shit about him on this podcast, whatever. I wasn't, and I'm not going to stop, and you can't make me. But anyway, go ahead.
I did like Felicia Rose and how she did the
Yes.
Angela role throughout. She didn't have a lot of lines, but when she spoke, because obviously she's actually a female, so
Yes.
when she spoke, she was very soft spoken. She had such a cute little demeanor to her, but she actually
Hmm.
showed her demeanor. It was some innocence about her that when you find out she's the damn killer, it's like, what?
Yeah,
If you haven't seen it, it's like, what?
I think that twist is done, not to steal it
Oh no, go
back
ahead.
from you, but I'm just saying I think the way the twist was done was you did not see it coming, right? So I think that was really solid and kind of like the dissonance, I'll say, between her and like how her character is, and then all of a sudden that
Yeah.
as the twist is like you really don't.
Because they try to throw you off and make you think that Ricky is the person because Ricky is very hot-headed throughout. And he's like, "You cocksuckers, I'm gonna kill you." Like he's very, very hostile when it comes to his
Right, right.
cousin. Like he protects Angela at all costs. And I love
Hmm.
that because in the very beginning, when you first see Ricky and Angela stand next to each other, he almost looks like he doesn't want to be bothered. But then you find out he doesn't want to be bothered because his mom is a weirdo, not because he doesn't
Right.
like Angela, because he loves Angela. That's his cousin. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? So he's really treating her like that's my homie. That's my bestie. I love her.
Right.
And I love that relationship. I love the fact that he protected her like that. But I love Felicia Rose and how she was just I felt she was so pretty. Like she was
She
even with her
was,
her
yeah.
doe eyes, like when she's just like she was so
Yeah,
pretty.
she was.
And so I'm giving this movie a solid 6 as well, to be
Oh wow.
honest. Again, if this is higher or if this is lower than Texas Chainsaw, but I don't think it is, because I don't think I could have ever gave Texas Chainsaw anything higher than a 5, unless I was giving it to it for Leatherface. But anyway, if this is lower, then I'm going to raise this up to whatever I need to make it so that it's higher than Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because I do like this
Oh
movie
my
more than
God.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think that again, the kills were good. The prosthetics that they used for the kills was very good. I think that there were clever and interesting kills as well. The tension that they built between Judy and Meg and Angela was interesting. The acting is stiff though throughout,
Yeah.
and the PDF file comments are unnecessary. So I lower my score because those things are kind of off. Like especially I did not like the cook. I did not like Artie. I did not like
No.
how he talked about the kids. I did not like from the door he was being very predator like. And I did not like that. So he definitely helps bring the score down just a bit. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with a solid 6 as well. So we
Okay.
have two sixes. 6 is my favorite number, so that's great.
Double six. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about this movie at all?
I don't have anything else to say about it. I think I said everything that I could say.
Yeah, I don't have anything else. So
There we go.
that wraps up our bloody trip to Sleepaway Camp.
Uh,
A summer of secrets, screams, and some truly unhinged energy. Whether this was your first time watching or your 50th, there's no denying it's one of the most what the fuck endings in horror history.
hmm
But now we want to hear from you. What did you think of Sleepaway Camp? Have you seen this cult classic before? Did any of the kills stick with you? Did the twist completely catch you off guard? Or did you see it coming? Drop us a comment because we'd love to hear your thoughts.
That's true.
And yeah, I will say, I mean, I think the kill that stuck with me the most was the bees on the toilet, like the scene where the guy gets killed by the bees when he's on the toilet. One,
Yeah.
because being on the toilet is like one of the most vulnerable positions you could
It
ever
really,
be in. And
yeah.
like if I ever was interrupted by like somebody throwing bee, first of all, they're bees, and I'm scared already.
You
So
don't
I'm
have a
probably
bees. Yeah.
I'm in the best place because I'm pooping myself anyway. So that's the best place to be. But at the same time, I'm somebody that I'm first of all, I might have said this on here before, but I have a poop phobia. I don't like it at all. So that would be very bad for me. I'd probably be throwing up and trying to get out at the same time because now I can't wipe myself because I'm trying to get away from the bees and I'm scared. It would be such a horrible scene. So
It
I
would
think
really be bad.
so that one stuck with me the most because I could
Yeah.
deal with everything else, but that one, the mix two things that I don't like, bees and poop. I can't. I can't. Okay,
That's really
so
solid. Yeah.
the
Heck
poop
yeah.
might not have been, but yeah. He was having a very spooky dookie that day.
No.
So yeah,
Having so many puns. We have so many
it's
excrement puns.
it's very punny tonight.
That's very
Um,
funny.
so again, we want to hear your thoughts. Please make sure you put your thoughts below. And maybe you too have a a fear of poop and a fear of bees. Who knows?
You'll find your people. You're gonna
Right.
find your little like community of people who are not into that. I mean,
Right.
I think most people are not into that.
I
That's like
mean,
a
there is a scat community, so I mean,
there's
who
like a R.
knows?
Kelly like different
Two
level.
two girls, one cup community. Don't you look?
Bleh.
Don't y'all look that up? Don't
Nope,
you?
don't
If you look that up, that's at your own risk. I did not. Don't look that up.
don't
Now,
don't do it.
anyway. Be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like this episode and you don't like poop, leave us a review or share it with your fellow horror freaks. It really helps us to
Uh,
keep the spooky content coming your way. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the Horror Ghouls. And please don't forget to like and subscribe for more creepy commentary and weird ass reviews. And of course, we were mentioning before that we were trying to get up to 50 subscribers, and woohoo,
we
I
have made it.
we have. I think we have 51 at the moment, unless somebody
52.
Oh, we have 52.
We have
Okay, great.
52 at the moment.
Oh, okay,
Um,
wonderful. I hope nobody unsubscribes after this poop comment.
Please don't unsubscribe. Please keep spreading the word. We still have 52.
Right.
Because as we grow, we get to unlock more features, do more things, eventually get monetized, and then we can do this even more and bring you even more and better and bigger content and have better
Yes.
tools. So,
Yes,
uh,
eventually our camera quality will get way better.
eventually,
But
yeah.
we're getting there. As you can see, we're upping the production. We do, different intro stuff and there's little pictures and stuff throughout and we're doing the best we can, people. And so we want to do more for you and that always comes in time. So we're working on it because we want to bring you the best, the spookiest and the dirtiest content we possibly can.
That's right. That's goddamn right. All right.
Absolutely. So until next time, please stay spooky, skip the night swim, and remember, sometimes the quiet ones are the deadliest.
Till next time. See you guys later. Bye.
Bye, guys.